officials have reportedly described these talks as very constructive and expect more discussions to resume next morning. The two largest economies in the world, US-China, are seeking to avoid an escalation of their trade war and preparing for a highly anticipated meeting between US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping next Thursday in South Korea. This meeting is expected to discuss interim relief on tariffs, technology controls, and Chinese purchases of US soybeans. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has already left Washington yesterday night for a 5-day trip to Malaysia, Japan, and South Korea. Let's listen in to his initial remarks on what he expects from the US-China trade talk.
We're at a 157% tariff for them. I don't think that's sustainable for them, and they want to get that down, and we want certain things from them. I think it'll be very good.
These US-China talks come as the United States threatens 100% tariffs on Chinese goods starting November 1st, which again is a response to China's expanded export controls on its rare earths and minerals. Both countries have also implemented arrival fees on each other's ships, complicating their trade relations further. Now for this discussion, we welcome Andrew K.P. Long. He's a China strategist, joins us live from Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Andrew, for joining us again. Good to see you. Andrew, now, given the recurring cycles of negotiation, escalation, comments between US and China, what political motivation, both domestic and international, might drive each side's approach to these upcoming trade talks?
I think these trade talks in Malaysia is not going to change the existential confrontation between the United States and China. It's only to lay the groundwork for hopefully a positive meeting between President Xi and President Trump. Now, because there are a great deal of fundamental contradictions involved in the relationship between these two countries. The United States wants to retard or derail China's rise, which is perceived as an existential threat to American dominance and world leadership. Above it all, the United States want to strangle China's semiconductors advance, also try to impose tariffs on a lot of its products. And China has now found a very effective tool, a very effective counterweight in terms of its dominance and mastery of rare earth processing. Not so much supply, because supply of rare earth can be found in countries like Australia and other countries, but in terms of the processing of a number of very critical elements, and these elements are essential parts of or components in key sectors, including U.S. military, to the extent of as much as 78%. So I think that the talks in Malaysia are unlikely to force China to give up this counterweight, but I think that Beijing is likely to relax some of the restrictions. Now, there is a false narrative, which I heard maybe a couple of hours ago on this channel, that somehow China's rare earth restrictions applying to Europe, to the rest of the world. That means China is trying to make an enemy of the West. This is a totally false narrative, because yes, China is strengthening the stranglehold of rare earths in the sense that Beijing doesn't want the rare earth finding its way back to the United States, particularly with U.S. allies. But that doesn't mean that China is going to make an enemy of Europe, or for that matter, any countries in Asia, because it applies to the whole world. So all it needs is a license, and then of course China would restrict some of the licenses to the United States. It doesn't mean that China will necessarily apply the same sort of restrictions to Asian neighbors or Europe. So I think that there's a lot to talk about, but I think that what Trump wants most is, of course, China buying more soybeans, because the soybeans represent are in those states and in the United States, which are the Republican Party's main supporter. Now that the midterm election is coming up, on that front, I think that Beijing is likely to be able to accommodate because after all, China has been buying all the soybean from the United States. In the first place, it is only in response to Trump's coercion that China is trying to buy all the soybean from Brazil and Russia.
And Andrea, as you mentioned that China has some cards that it can play in the upcoming summit. To what extent can this tariff relief, if it happens, and renewed agricultural such as soybeans or technology agreements serve as effective tools for easing tensions between these two largest economies?
The fact that President Trump agrees and also President Xi agrees to meet both sides each other suggests that there is a willingness to find a more constructive and less confrontational approach. Let's face it, neither China nor the United States can win the other side. So there's no such a thing as a sure win. And both sides have strengths and as well as vulnerabilities. So I think that what's likely to happen is maybe not exactly a middle way, but trying to recalibrate the relationship so that both sides feel less nervous or less uncomfortable with one another, but still maintaining the rivalry and confrontation when necessary. But I think that any kind of accommodation could be a good sign because if the two sides keep on this rhetoric and also action and reaction, it could easily spiral into something even worse. So I think that there was a lot of positive aspects of this forthcoming meeting between President Xi and President Trump.
Yes, we'll be eyeing that. Always great learning from you. Thank you very much, Andrew K. Long, for joining us as China strategist from Hong Kong and sharing that insight. Now we move on to Afghanistan and Pakistan. Officials of Pakistan and Afghanistan are set to hold the second round of talks in Turkey on Saturday today to find a negotiated solution to the border tensions and curb terrorist activities from Afghanistan's soil. The talks follow a temporary restoration of calm along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border after the first round of discussions, which was held in Doha on 19 October. The dialogue was facilitated by Qatar and Turkey, and both sides had agreed to meet again in Istanbul on October 25th to continue discussions aimed at addressing mutual security concerns. According to the Foreign Office spokesperson Tahir Andrabi, Pakistan also looks forward to the establishment of a concrete and verifiable monitoring mechanism in the next meeting. However, he has also urged the Afghan Taliban authorities to honor their commitments to the international community and to take verifiable action against terrorist entities operating from Afghan territory. Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar. He's a senior strategic and defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General and Dr. Rajan Kochhar, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, as we know, the relationship between Pakistan and Afghanistan has been rocky, not just this month, but over a decade now, and they share a very, very long border. So what do you think, what challenges might arise in implementing a concrete and verifiable monitoring mechanism and ceasefire between these two countries, and how could both sides ensure compliance?
Thank you, Zima. It's a very, very tall task, I would say that, because considering the type of relationship Taliban and Pakistan enjoy as of now, because previously their relations were good, but now there is a lack of trust and actions which Pakistan has taken by using air power and striking civilian areas in Kabul and other places, Paktika and all these places have compounded the problem. And Taliban has retaliated. There have been heavy casualties on the Pakistan side. And TTP has been very, very active in this area. And we have almost 400 plus Pakistani soldiers killed in the last 1 year. So I think we must welcome this peace initiative because it's good for Taliban as well as Pakistan. And Turkey is taking the initiative. Istanbul, these talks are there. And what Pakistan would be interested in working out a control mechanism, a mechanism where they would be able to monitor, because Pakistan feels that Taliban is giving shelter to Tehrik-e-Taliban fighters in Afghanistan, and their weapons and their ammunition, everything is being supplied to them. So this monitoring mechanism, I believe, is going to be a third party monitoring. Firstly, it won't be monitored by either Pakistan or Taliban. It will have Qatar and Turkey as the mediators, and they would establish a monitoring cell, and to ensure that Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan is not getting any help from Taliban in Afghanistan. But the problem is, you see, Taliban is not a regular army. When you deal with a regular army, you can ensure that ceasefire violations will not take place, because there is a proper command and control structure in the armed forces. And having been myself in armed forces for almost 4 decades, I can tell you that. So it would be very important that we would also like to know the details of the mechanism for enforcement of this ceasefire, because that would actually become important. The second important aspect is that there are border crossings, and Turkham is one of the main crossing. Chaman is another main trade crossing, and in this 2,640 kilometers of border, there are 18 crossings. So that would be very interesting to see what kind of mechanism will be there on all these crossings, because most of the border, apart from the crossings, Pakistan states that almost 95% has been fenced, but the border is quite porous. So that would be interesting to watch now, because there are safe houses also available in Afghanistan, where these TTP actually go and take shelter. So in my ultimate analysis, we are awaiting what kind of monitoring mechanism is going to be in place. But I personally am quite circumspect, because Taliban has various factions and groups which actually work all along the border. So it would be very, very interesting to see that how this monitoring mechanism will work and how the ceasefire is going to be enforced.
Yes, indeed, we'll be eyeing that. And Major General Dr. Rajan Koshar, looking at this, we saw Pakistan blaming Afghanistan for all this involving TTP as well, and then and then Afghanistan doing the same, about blaming each other. These countries were blaming each other. So how effective are these bilateral talks while they still blame each other that this was facilitated? And is there any chance that these could be facilitated by third party as well, the attacks?
So very good question, because you see, when we lack trust in each other, and Afghanistan has repeatedly denied their involvement in helping Tehrik-e-Taliban on their soil, and they still maintain that we got nothing to do with TTP, and we don't harbor them in our country. So that would be, you see, the third party. When two parties are not willing to accept each other's viewpoint, that is the third party mediation comes into play. But my experience and my analysis of what I see with regard to Pakistan and Afghanistan, as also the other places where third parties are involved, unless there are security guarantees here, if you have security guarantees in place, maybe this ceasefire may work for some time. But the basic problem why TTP is targeting the Pakistan army, and this basic problem needs to be addressed, which unfortunately both these countries are not willing to address. The main thorn in the flesh is the Durand line.
Yes.
And when you have people of the same ethnicity, which are across the border on either side, and they are brothers and sisters, you just can't divide them by an imaginary line called the Durand line, because the Britishers did just that, and there are numerous instances in India also. The Bangladesh border also has been fenced like that. So I think both Pakistan and Afghanistan and Taliban must sit down together and work out some kind of an agreement on the border. The fencing or the free movement on the border must be continued, because that is a bone of contention. And the next part is the refugees. There are 8 to 10 lakh refugees of Afghanistan,
Yes.
which are staying in Pakistan. I believe they are not being treated well by the Pakistanis. So that refugee issues also need to be sorted out.
Yes.
And unfortunately, in my opinion, unless you sort out these major ideological problems between these two countries, this ceasefire will only remain a temporary solution.
Yes, indeed. The long-term solution might be something else. Thank you very much, Major General Dr. Rajan Koshar, for joining us.